Installation of this three-sided flagpole surround begins with a flagpole which already sits atop a concrete pad. The concrete pad should be at least 4 inches thick. Installation supplies include the proper bolts, washers, and nuts, metal assembling brackets, shims or wedges, masking tape, measuring tape, disposable gloves, a rubber mallet, foam backer rod, and a spirit level. You'll also need wrenches and drilling equipment capable of drilling into concrete. This flagpole surround consists primarily of 5 pieces of custom cast stone. As always, special care must be taken when moving or otherwise handling these heavy components. The pieces should be roughly placed to find the right positions for their final installation. In this case, the company logo should be plainly visible to viewers at the front of this building, so the alignment of the front piece should be exactly parallel to the street in front. This means it's also going to be parallel to the front of the concrete pad under this flagpole. These installers are placing another piece of the flagpole surround in the approximate location of its final installation. They use the mounting hardware and hand-tighten the bolts to help the pieces to remain stable while the placement is being determined. This allows them to temporarily place the top pieces of the surround to ensure that the flagpole itself will be perfectly centered inside the surround. Adjustments are made as needed, and the top pieces are temporarily placed again until the alignment is correct. The installers also make another check of the front piece alignment before proceeding. At this point, more mounting brackets are installed in preparation for drilling mounting holes into the concrete pad on the ground. These mounting brackets have slotted openings to allow for some adjustments throughout the process before the bolts are fully tightened. To ensure that the holes are drilled at a consistent depth, the installer has put a piece of masking tape on the drill bit. With the first 2 holes drilled, he's ready to install the mounting bolts into the concrete pad. At this point, an installer is placing foam backer rod into the gap between these 2 pieces of the flagpole surround. Later, he's going to put caulking into this gap. The backer rod will keep the caulking inside the gap and prevent it from dripping inside the flagpole surround before it starts to set up. Now the installers are placing the final side piece. They're able to place the backer rod more easily this time by holding it in place and then pressing the surround pieces together to secure it. The installer uses a small piece of wooden shim to hold the bottom of the backer rod and keep his fingers out of the way. With the third piece roughly placed, the installers are using a rubber mallet to gently nudge it into a more precise location. It is important that the gaps between each piece are consistent, with no single gap appearing to be wider or more narrow than another. This is key to making the flagpole surround look its best. Also, the edges should appear to be aligned where they come together so that no one piece appears to stick out farther than another. As the pieces come together and the placement and alignment are correct, the installers can now use their wrenches to tighten the assembly brackets inside. They continuously double-check their work as they go. At this point, the installers were also able to check that the flagpole surround was level. Because this concrete pad was level, no special adjustments were necessary for this flagpole surround. However, even the slightest imperfection at ground level may require adjustments to be made using shims or extra washers under the mounting bolts. If the side pieces are not adjusted to be level, then they won't line up in a pleasing manner. The top pieces will be even more difficult to place correctly if the side pieces aren't level. As these installers check the placement of the top pieces, they're making sure that the flagpole itself is correctly centered as it emerges from the top of the flagpole surround. They're also checking that the top pieces hang over the sides in a consistent manner, and that the gap between the top pieces matches the width of the gap between each side piece. Once they're satisfied with these positions, they can do the final tightening of the bolts inside the flagpole surround. Before the final placement of the top pieces, the installers put a small loop of foam backer rod around the flagpole. This, along with the backer rod in the other top gaps of the flagpole surround, will allow them to use caulking to fill these gaps in a few moments. The first use of caulking will be to attach the top pieces to the side pieces. One installer gently lifts each side of the top pieces without changing their locations, while another installer puts in the caulking. As with any use of caulking, it's important to neatly wipe off the excess, leaving only a clean, smooth bead. Now they'll start the process of filling all of the other gaps and smoothing the caulking before it sets up. The gap between the bottom edges of the flagpole surround and the concrete pad on the ground should also be filled. As you can see, the finished flagpole surround has a clean, crisp look that will enhance the entrance to this business for many years to come.